Kaufman, Captain, U.S. Navy, retired. I was a senior in high school in 1935, and I had been thinking about it for a year or so before that. And in those days, there were no SAT scores. However, each congressman and senator could ask the United States Civil Service Commission to conduct an examination to determine how people ranked academically. When I went into that examination, in the morning there were 20 or 25 young men there. At that time, of course, no women. I don't remember the order of the subjects, but it doesn't make any difference. We broke for lunch, and when we came back after lunch, there were only 4 of us. So the others had all dropped out, deciding that exam was not for them. I didn't know immediately, but I found out later on that I did come in as a leader in that exam and was nominated to the Naval Academy by my congressman. I entered the Naval Academy on the 23rd of June, 1936, graduated on the 6th of June, 1940, and I don't have anything specific about the 4 years at the Naval Academy. It was an engaging course, but anyway, I graduated in the upper third of the class. Graduation day was on Thursday of June week. On about Tuesday, the 5 of us who were going to the same ship were called down to the commandant's office, and he said, "I know your orders provide you for 21 days leave. However, your new commanding officer wants you aboard on Friday, the day after graduation, on Friday before noon." The 5 of us got there and joined the cruiser Wichita, a heavy cruiser, 8-inch gun cruiser. I got aboard ship, and my other 4 classmates had made it also. And as we were sitting at lunch, the bottom end of the wardroom, where freshmen and ensigns belonged, a messenger came down from the quarterdeck and said that our equipment, which had been trucked down from the Naval Academy, had arrived. Each of us had a wooden box, which we'd had for 3 years at the Naval Academy, called a cruise box. When you departed in the summertime for the summer cruise or whatever activities, or long periods of leave, you put everything you didn't take with you in the cruise box. Uniforms, books, whatever. And the box had your name stenciled on it, and it showed up outside your new room when you got back from leave. Well, I had the cruise box, and each of us had a trunk that we just bought. The cruise box had some old midshipman uniforms that I had one stripe put on, and some old books that I wanted to keep, so on. Well, when I got up on the quarterdeck, 5 of us, 2 pieces of baggage each, 10 pieces, there were only 9 there. My trunk was the missing. I waited until after lunch, went around to the executive officer of Wichita, told him my sad story. He said, "Well, you better call the Naval Academy and have it fly it down here." I'd be a fresh caught ensign asking him some naval aviator lieutenant or lieutenant commander to fly down here, but that's what I did. First they said, "Oh, it's all gone out." Then they said, "No, it's here." So I said, "Well, can you have it flown down, please? This ship sails at 4 o'clock. They found somebody. The fellow I was talking to said, "Find a naval aviator around here on Friday afternoon? You gotta be kidding." But they did find one. They flew my stuff down, not in the trunk, which they hadn't been able to get in the back seat of a single engine cruiser battleship type airplane, which could be converted to wheels, and was. And my gear arrived anyway, and I had my all my equipment to go to South America, including something that you people have never seen. Those days we wore cocked hats with full dress uniforms, and that was one of the things that I got. So that was my initiation to Wichita, and sailed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for South America. My 2.5 years in Wichita were interesting to say the least. I started out in the communications department, but only served in that for about 3 or 4 months, and I became a turret officer. I had a turret with 3 of those 8-inch guns. On December 7th, we were in port in Iceland. The capital of Iceland is in the southernmost fjord in the Iceland. The next fjord around to the northwest, whose name I don't recall, was the naval anchorage. And we had mostly U.S. ships, but there would always be a couple of British Royal Navy ships there also. We had a small enlisted club ashore and an officers club ashore. We had an opportunity to, periodically a destroyer would go from the anchorage down to Reykjavik, and and I got down there once, had a chance to see the city and know a little bit more about Iceland. But most of the time, we did go out to sea occasionally, but we spent a lot of time at anchor in that fjord. Toward the end of January 42, we had a rip-snorting storm came through. A lot of people think of Iceland as being full of ice, and it is. In the wintertime, I don't know what global warming is doing, but in the wintertime, the pack ice would come down to the northern shore of Iceland, but it would recede in the summertime. That was caused because the Gulf Stream came up from the United States, curved around just at Iceland, and curved down toward the British Isles. And that Gulf Stream kept Reykjavik as an ice-free port. Anyway, the storm came through. We were doing all right. And there was a tanker, and I don't remember whether it was a military tanker or a civilian tanker, came in and hit the bow of Wichita and blew up the anchor windlass engine and knocked that. We had to get a man with a cutting torch up there, burn the anchor chain and let it go, dropped the second anchor, and it never really took hold. And we drifted, went aground, almost at high tide in the afternoon of that storm. Sat there all night. In the morning, got a couple of smaller vessels over there. The tow us came off. And in the course of coming off, one of the ships punched a hole above the waterline back out someplace. And then we went back to the States. That trip back was the roughest ocean voyage of the next 20 years I had in the Navy. We were in company with a U.S. battleship, and I can remember seeing the propellers come out of the water as it dove into waves. I also, as time passed, became a qualified and underway information officer of the deck. And as time went on, the last year I was aboard Wichita, there were only 4 of us who stood all of the underway watches. As a sign of how fast the military grew in the early 40s, When I joined Wichita, there were 25 officers, and when I left, there were 75. And I said, only 4 of us of those 75 stood all of the underway off the deck watches. The memorable things in the summer of 1942, Wichita became, along with a couple of other U.S. ships, became a part of the British Royal Navy's home fleet. During that period, as an element of the home fleet, we accompanied a U.S. merchant ship convoy to Murmansk in Russia. The naval forces did not get attacked. However, the convoy was attacked by German aircraft, and a number, and I don't remember the number, a number of their ships were lost. We came back from that, came back to the States for a brief time. In those days, different now, in those days, graduates of the Naval Academy went to a big ship, a battleship, a carrier, or a cruiser for the first 2 years before going to any other training such as flight training, submarine training, postgraduate schools, etc. My skipper called me around the summer of 42 when I had just completing my 2 years, and I had orders to submarine school at that time. And he said that he knew I had the orders. However, we were going on an interesting cruise in the fall, and he would like me to stay aboard for the cruise. He could not tell me what it was. So I agreed with that. We went to the invasion of North Africa in November of 42, and Wichita, along with a number of other U.S. ships, participated in the bombardment of the ships in port of Casablanca. They included a cruiser, which was not finished. I said cruiser, a battleship, which was not completed. A couple of cruisers, several destroyers, and at least one submarine. We bombarded that activity all one day, and the purpose of that bombardment was to damage those ships so that the Germans couldn't take them over and use them against us later in the war. Wichita then came back to the States. I was detached and went to submarine school.